Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear students, this is the last topic that we discussed, that is the multiple selections, nested if. I told you that one control statement is written within the body of another control statement is known as nesting. An else is associated with the most recent if that has not been paired with an else. Look at the syntax of nested if structure, that we are having if, and obviously conditional expression is given here, and immediately within the body of this if statement we are declaring, we are mentioning, we are writing another if condition, if else structure. So if condition, and the pattern of this if conditions is very much similar. The difference is that we have two different if structures over here. One can be said as the outer if, that is this condition, if condition, and within this outer if we have the inner box, that is the inner if conditions. Using common sense, we can conclude that this block cannot be executed unless until the condition of this if becomes true. If this is true, then this block of code can be executed. Just assume this complete block as a single statement. So what happens? The condition, if it becomes true, then this statement will be executed. Otherwise, this statement will be executed. In similar fashion, that single statement is in fact divided into multiple statements. So this is treating this complete block regardless the size of lines of codes or size of the block or the number of statements and instructions written within this block. So if this condition is true, so this block of if condition will be executed. Means if outer if is condition is true, then inner if will be executed. If it is false, then it will immediately jump to the else structure and this statement or set of the statements will be executed. For example, this statement or condition is true, this conditional expression is true, then inner if block will be executed. Again it will check if this condition is true, then this statement will be, or set of the statements will be executed. If it is not true, these statements will be executed, and then finally it will move to the next block of code, because this statement, that is one block, has been executed, so it means this conditions or this statement will not be executed. One example is given here, that suppose the balance and interest rate are variables of type double. The following statements determine the interest rate depending on the value of the balance. In this example, don't get confused, don't be afraid that we are solving any business problem. I told you that we are not solely concerned with the formulas of the business mathematics or anything else, but in fact we are dealing with the problems, how to solve them. So if anybody does not know any formula of interest rate or any kind of the formula is here, so it is not our concern. The formula will be given to you. But in this example, there is no formula, but just some values has been fixed. So if the balance, again remember, recall your memory, that balance, interest rate, these are the variables which must be declared before using them. So it is given in the problem that the type or data type of these two variables is double in fact. So if the balance is greater than 50,000 rupees, if some employee is having more than 50,000 balance in his or her account, then the interest rate will be given to them is 0.07. Else if balance is greater than or equals to 25,000 rupees, then the interest rate will be 0.05. Else if balance is greater than 1,000, interest rate is 0.03. If these ranges are not here, then finally interest rate is 0, means if the value is below the 1000, if the balance is below than 1000, then there will no interest rate. In this example, nothing will be printed if we look at this example, because no cout has been used, but we can use them easily at appropriate places. Just the objective is to understand that how these else structures are executed. Before going to any further discussion, just assume in this particular case that if these else keywords have been removed, what will happen? If I remove these else keywords, and only if keywords are written here, then what will be the answer? Just try to understand, just try to find out the output at this stage without compilation or running this program. Use your competency, understanding, and I will recommend that never try to attempt the programs. Write them on the copy and write down the results which are expected. Then you will master on the programming. If we are removing these else structures, then what happens? Balance will be compared with the 50,000. For example, yes, it is greater than 50,000. The interest rate will be 0.07. Again, if there is no else condition, then second if will be checked. Again, the balance is greater than equals to 25,000. For example, the balance is 51,000 rupees. This will be the result. Again, 51,000 is greater than or equal to 25,000. ये 51,000 ऑब्वियसली 50,000 से भी बड़ा है, तो 0.07 भी कैलकुलेट होगा. यही पर 51,000 ग्रेटर है ऑब्वियसली 25,000, वो 0.05 भी ले लेगा. और इसी तरह से 1,000 से भी बड़ा है तो ये भी ले लेगा. ठीक है. If we are not providing the else, the results will not be according to our expectations. This else in fact terminates the condition that is executed correctly. If this condition is true, then interest rate will be calculated, and similarly everything will be avoided. It will be ignored by the compiler because one condition has become true. For example, it is not true, then it will go to the next condition, and if it is true, rest of the conditions will be ignored, or similarly this will go on in this fashion. In this example, this seems little complex, so we can write the same thing in this example, like this is example. To avoid the excessive indentation, means notations in other words, the code in example 418 can be rewritten as follows. If this is the same thing over here and both the keywords are written in same line, this if is written with this else, this if is written with this else, makes no difference in the output, but it will simplify the number of lines written for your program. Again, another example is that assume that the score is a variable of type integer. Based on the value of score, the following code output the grade. Note down that if the data type or any instruction is given into your problem statement, then there is no possibility of assumption. For example, we have written score is the having the data type of integer. Some of you may assume that it should be float, but you have not to do that, because strictly it is mentioned, clearly mentioned, that the type of the score is integer. So in exams, in quizzes, in assignments, if such kind of instruction is given to you, then follow that instruction and do not assume, unless until nothing is described or ambiguous. So similarly, if the score is greater than or equal to 90, grade is A. Else if greater than 80, grade B, and so on so forth. If there is lesser marks than 60, then this last else will be executed. I hope so that you can understand this one as we have discussed thoroughly. If we are removing these else statements, then what happens if the score is 91? So the grade is A will be printed. Obviously 91 is greater than 80. The grade is B also will be printed. This will also be printed. This will also be printed. For example, if the score, and we are not using the else statements, if the score is greater than 81 or score is 81, then this will be false and the grade is A will not be printed, and these three statements will be printed. If this condition only is true, then these two conditions will be printed. If we are not providing, remember, if we are not providing the else with if you are executing this program, it will work fine. Again, confusion between double equal and single equal. C++ allows you to use any expression that can be evaluated to either true or false as an expression in the if statement. If x is 5, see out the value is 5. The appearance of single equal in place of double equal resembles a silent killer. So it is, I told you that it makes it the exact value, it is fixing the value, and this is the assignment operator. So this is not a syntax error, rather it is a logical error. Compiler will not help you to find out this equal sign or assignment sign. The last selection structure is the switch structure, and in switch structure it is the alternate to if else structure. In fact, we can use the switch structure in such conditions where one expression contains multiple options. For example, if our week starts from Monday, and we assume that if the day 1 is selected, it means Monday. If 2 is selected, means Tuesday. 3 is selected, Wednesday. 4 is selected, Thursday. 5 is selected, Friday, and so on. So expression is single, values might be multiple. In such situations, we can use the switch structures, and it is good enough and easy to use. Switch may have some character values or constant values or expressions, integral values. Expression is evaluated first. Value of the expression determines which corresponding action is taken. Expression is sometimes called the selector. Before discussing this, we should understand the flow diagram of this switch statement. The expression is given here. For example, as I told you that the day, and day is in fact the variable of integer type in my example, that specifies if the value of day is 1, Monday will be printed, should be printed. If the value of day is 2, then Tuesday should be printed. If the value of this day is 3, then Wednesday, and so on. Expression is written while the values for these expressions are mentioned in these diamonds. Suppose the user has input the 1, then it is true, and in a statement we can write the day is Monday. If the user inputs value 2, integer 2, then Tuesday can be printed, and so on. What this break does, for example, if user inputs the value for this day variable as 1, then this condition is true in fact, and the result will be printed, means Monday. And yes, this is our final selection. And break in fact specifies that now there is no need to execute the rest of the statements or conditions or case statements, because the value matches over here, so the options, one of the options will be true. For example, this is true, statement will be executed, break will terminate or bypasses this complete case statements, and it goes to the normal execution after the case statements. If this condition is false, then it will go and check the second case statement If it is true, the statement will be executed as Tuesday, for example. And yes, it is matched, it is checked. Now the break will be executed and it will bypass the rest of the case statements and it will go to the normal execution. For example, no condition is true from here, then the default keyword, that is the keyword reserved word, कि अगर इन कंडीशंस में से कोई भी ना हो, फॉर एग्जांपल 1 भी ना हो, 2 भी ना हो, 3 भी ना हो, 4 भी ना हो, 5 भी ना हो, 6 भी ना हो, 7 भी ना हो, क्योंकि एक वीक में 7 दिन है और 8 मैंने प्रैक्टिस कर दिया जो कि मैच किसी से भी नहीं कर रही, तो एक डिफ़ॉल्ट हम वैल्यू दे देते हैं कि बाय डिफ़ॉल्ट ये स्टेटमेंट दे दें कि नो डेज फाउंड। ठीक है, कि एक ऐसी जनरल स्टेटमेंट कि अगर ये सारी चीज़ें गलत हो जाए तो ये स्टेटमेंट प्रिंट हो जाए, और इसमें हम कह सकते हैं रॉन्ग सिलेक्शन फॉर द वीक, फॉर द डेज एंड सो ऑन। In this case, remember we have used 4 keywords. One is switch, that will be that should be written over here. Switch, that is the keyword, reserved word that cannot be used for your variables or anything else. The second is the case. It is once again, it is a keyword. The third keyword is the break that cannot be used as the variables or the function declarations. And finally default, it is also a keyword that cannot be used for our purposes. So switch structures, one or more statements may follow a case label, braces or the curly brackets are not needed to turn multiple statements into a single compound statement. You should observe that in this example just one single block is declared with the curly braces or curly brackets, but there is no need to write curly brackets over here because this block is defined by case and break statements. So the compiler will understand, yes, it is the break, means one block, one case block is completed, then the second block, then the third block, and so on. The break statement may or may not appear after each statement. It depends upon. It is not necessary to write break statement every time after each statement, and just try to do that and observe the differences or changes or variations. I leave this exercise to you. So switch, case, break and default are the key reserved words. So these are the control structures that I hope so that you enjoyed and you will practice. I hope so. Thank you very much.